Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. So in a recent SCP video that I did, the term Broken Masquerade was brought up with I'm assuming the idea that meaning, you know, the info's out there, it's gone public, you know, the public knows about anomalies and SCPs, etc, etc, etc. So they must have some kind of contingency plan to do that. So today we're going to be taking a look at the exploring series, The Broken Masquerade, which I assume is some kind of scenario that happens where the public knowledge of SCPs and anomalies gets out, and what they do or try to do to, again, wrest control from the situation. I assume that's what's going to happen. So we're going to take a look at that. Links will be down below in the description to the original video here without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring Series channel. So if you could do me a favor, click those links. If you like this video, go over there and give it a like. If you like the man's content, please go over there and subscribe to his channel if you're not already, as he makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe as well as others. I often do these reactions live for my YouTube members, so if you'd like to join the discussions when we have them, there's a join button down below the video, as well as a link in the description. Check out the membership tiers, see if any of them have any interest for you. You can get early access to my videos. You can get priority in any requests that you might have for me to do reactions to, etc, etc. So if any of that interests you, just take a look. See if you decide you want to take your support to the next level. Regardless, I just appreciate you guys taking the time to check out these videos. Thank you very much for doing so. Hope you enjoy this one. So we're going to jump into it here. Again, this is the exploring series, The Broken Masquerade. So let's get into it.
The Broken Masquerade. Securing, containing, and protecting are the three steadfast goals of the SCP Foundation.
Yep.
Most of the topics we've been looking at have focused on a setting in which the Foundation have succeeded in these goals. Sure, there are always incidents, such as containment breaches or sudden appearances of anomalies in public places.
But what happens when a scenario is so great that you can't cover it up or contain it, etc.?
Overall, the Foundation maintains a veil of secrecy from the wide world. But what would happen if they failed in that goal? That's the concept behind the Broken Masquerade canon, a timeline in which the Foundation finally fails to contain awareness of anomalies.
Okay, so this is a whole other line of canon and story where, they just failed to contain something, and so the information's out. Okay. And
the entire world becomes far more acquainted with them. This generally is not seen as the primary canon state of the SCP universe, if there is such a thing, but it is a very interesting what-if scenario.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of multiversal stuff going on in the SCP Foundation anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, there is a timeline where that happens. And honestly, I mean, it would lead to all kinds of interesting stories and situations.
Much of the Broken Masquerade canon takes place in the form of tales, but there are a few SCPs written with that canon in mind as well. There are thousands of ways that the world could become aware of anomalies on a scale that the Foundation couldn't prevent. But in the case of the Broken Masquerade canon, things culminate with an event in North Korea.
Interesting.
In short, North Korea suddenly and instantaneously disappears, with nothing left but a giant hole. Hurricanes were reported in the region, but really it was just air and water suddenly rushing in to fill the gap. Immediately afterwards, the Global Occult Coalition comes into the light, as the world learns that they are a secret paranormal group funded by the United Nations. The GOC announced that another organization called the SCP Foundation are responsible for the disappearance of North Korea.
That would be very interesting. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine an event just happening where an entire country and a massive chunk of a continent just disappear overnight, and then within hours, if not the next day, there is an announcement from a global organization saying that, hey, aliens, paranormal stuff, you know, all that shit's real. And by the way, there is a private organization that has been working in the background in secret this entire time without the knowledge, or potentially without the cooperation and or say-so of any kind of government, almost working autonomously. That would be very interesting. It would be very interesting to see what would happen. I don't know. I feel like most people would probably not be happy about that.
The United Nations and the GOC demand that the leaders of the SCP Foundation be brought in for a trial by the International Court.
I feel like something like that would happen.
Instead, the Foundation hijacked television broadcasts across the world and release a message.
I could easily see. I mean, I guess it would depend on how exactly big the SCP Foundation is. They do have obviously large mobile task force. They do have some, machines of war, tanks, planes, helicopters, etc., etc. But, is it a question where could they really actually put up a fight against, a nation? Could they actually defend themselves against the United States or China or Russia or any kind of major country if it were to come down to it and they tried to impose their power or will on the SCP Foundation, United Nations, NATO, etc.? What would happen if they decided to do that? Could the SCP Foundation actually defend itself? I think conventional warfare wise, probably not, but with all the SCPs and anomalous stuff they have and a lot of the technologies and things they have access to, I mean, they have stuff where they could like reset timelines and whatnot, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it would just be very interesting to see what would happen. It would be very interesting to see what would happen.
Saying that they are indeed responsible for the disappearance. They claim that the country is only spatially displaced somewhere else. Unfortunately, they're not sure if the civilians survived the displacement or not. Apparently, the Foundation and the GOC were working to prevent some sort of world-ending scenario, which they did, but North Korea got lost in the process. The Broken Masquerade really occurred when large swaths of Foundation files were leaked across the internet,
Interesting.
with the Foundation apparently unable to prevent or contain it. After this, the doors to the anomalies have been blown open, with journalists and investigators around the world poking their noses into the GOC, the Foundation, the Serpent's Hand, and practically every other paranatural group out there.
I feel like Marshall, Carter, and Dark and like factions like them would love it, because I feel like their business and business opportunities would like probably skyrocket overnight, right?
Massive relief efforts are made in the area around where North Korea used to be, with countless bodies being found in the ocean.
Damn.
Conspiracy theorists around the world go wild as they learn that all of their wildest beliefs were pretty much true.
Right, yeah.
And then some. The SCP Foundation still continues their work, of course, as the Broken Masquerade really only entails one of their primary goals failing. There are plenty of anomalies that still need to be contained, but now the Foundation does not need to concern themselves with keeping their existence away from public eyes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, from a certain perspective, it would actually make things easier for them. They wouldn't necessarily have to worry about part of the containment phase of their ideas would be wiped away. They wouldn't have to worry about, amnesticizing groups of people in certain situations, et cetera, unless it was absolutely necessary for, cognito hazard issues, et cetera, but they wouldn't necessarily have to be working so hidden in secrecy, which would make some of their job a lot easier, I would bet.
Reports of various anomalies begin to be published in newspapers, and some non-dangerous SCPs are removed from SCP custody after various governments get involved. The mother of SCP-2118, a young girl who spontaneously begins speaking in the voice of a deceased child when in the presence of a parent who lost said child, writes a letter to the Foundation. 2118's parents apparently lost one of their children, and 2118 would regularly mimic the final words and sounds of the child, causing friction in the family, until 2118 was taken in by the Foundation. Now, her mother hopes to regain custody of the girl after believing her to be dead all these years. But,
also in some ways you would think about it, like they could almost create, I've used this kind of analogy before. They could, for certain more or less harmless, like humans, people who have smaller, less harmless, anomalous abilities, they could essentially create kind of, an Xavier School for Gifted kind of thing and be public about it and say, hey, look, if you or a loved one or anyone you know are starting to show signs of some kind of anomalous properties, able to do strange things, come here, we can evaluate you and give you a safe environment to learn and safely use your abilities to not harm yourself or others, et cetera, et cetera. And they could give them, facilities to live. They could have visits from their family, blah, 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 and live as much of a normal life as they can and still be public about it. So in some ways, it might even be better that the SCP would be public, because they could offer certain other public services that they wouldn't be able to do beforehand.
she has to go through a mountain of paperwork.
Let me rewind this a little bit.
Now, her mother hopes to regain custody of the girl after believing her to be dead all these years. But she has to go through a mountain of paperwork. SCP-682 was apparently shown on TV, and a young boy writes a letter to the lizard, as his teacher instructed him to write a letter to his hero. He claims that other kids think the lizard is scary, but not him. He thinks that if they met, they would be best friends. SCP-2991...
Somehow I don't think that would happen. Somehow I think you'd probably get 8 or something.
A sapient animate scarf created by an employee of Dr. Wondertainment was taken by the Foundation from an apartment while the tenant was away. The creator writes a letter to the Foundation saying that he's always suspected the Foundation was responsible, but he just wants Scarf back now. He says that Scarf must be so scared, and he'll tell the Foundation everything about Scarf if they just safely return it to him. He says he's coming to get Scarf either way, and they cannot stop him. People of all sorts begin to pry into the SCP Foundation's business, many of them discovering things they'd probably rather not know about.
Yep.
The Foundation's Ethics Committee is brought under heavy scrutiny by the United Nations before realizing that perhaps it's best the Foundation keeps operating as it has been.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before in other videos. I really feel like ignorance is bliss in a lot of scenarios with the SCP, because there's creatures, beings, entities, things of all kinds of otherworldly natures that are almost kind of incomprehensible, that most people would probably want to just not have any knowledge of and would be happy to live their lives without knowing it. You know what I mean?
Both the Russians and the Americans become very interested in weaponizing some of the anomalies known to the Foundation. Notably, SCP-610, the flesh that hates, despite accords being written up to prevent this practice. The massive leak of Foundation information didn't just...
I could easily see, again, wars happening over SCP attainment and utilization. Again, things like SCP-610 that could easily be turned into some weapon that could be unleashed against, humanity in general and destroy humanity. You know what I mean? So, like, not to mention, like, the architect thing, like, you could easily just, like, roll that into an area, like, say you're at war with a foreign country or whatever, and you have a spy just, slip that architect device into the leadership's building, and now they're essentially trapped in an infinite universe of hallways and whatnot, and they can just never get out. And that's it. You know what I mean? So there'd be all kinds of strange uses. Or even the coffee machine that can create, any kind of like substance or liquid. Like, you could literally have some dude create any kind of poison or whatever that, you know, tastes like someone's favorite drink and serve it to them and, you know, assassinate them with, you know, no knowledge, no trace, no nothing. You know, I mean, there's just so many things that could be done with various SCPs and various things.
Just reach the general public, obviously, but also every other anomalous group of interest. Groups such as the Sarkic cults, the Church of the Broken God, the Chaos Insurgency, and so on, gain intimate knowledge of thousands of SCPs and begin a new spree of raids. It was a trying time for the Foundation and the world in general, and things could have very easily collapsed in on themselves. But the world kept going. In time, the anomalous became commonplace, to a degree. The Foundation still worked to contain the really dangerous stuff, but safer anomalies began to become integrated with modern society. Groups such as Marshall, Carter, and Dark boomed in business, selling all sorts of safer anomalies, such as paranatural pet dogs that can fly or change colors.
Well, and I mean, Anderson Robotics in general, like their cybernetics division and being able to create, you know, more like actual sentient androids and being able to create better limbs that actually, you know, work cybernetics and stuff like that. Like all kinds of stuff for all these various businesses would yeah.
The Foundation used these safe anomalies to help their public image, as videos of cute anomalous pets begin trending worldwide, none of which would have been possible if not for the SCP Foundation, or so they would say. The Foundation even went as far as releasing public relation videos directed at teenagers, filled with outdated references and memes. There were plenty of scams as well, both from governments and corporations. Some governments and officials would claim certain disasters to be anomalous so that the Foundation would clean it up for them, with some going so far as to try and make a scene look paranormal. Shady organizations would sell off all sorts of products and services, claiming them to be genuine anomalies.
There would be all kinds of snake oil, you know, dudes coming out there trying to scam people and saying this, that, and the other thing is an anomaly that'll save your life or do this or that, or, you know, create some kind of new anomaly Viagra pill, you know, some kind of shit like that's gonna happen.
Looking to make a quick buck off some gullible suckers.
Yeah.
Anomalous foods also become popular.
Interesting.
Such as the Ambrose restaurant chain that serves all manner of paranatural food like Kraken caviar or Siberian firebird.
Interesting.
On the more dangerous side of anomalous food is SCP-3739, Mind Milk, a cognitohazard that anomalously creates mind milk products around the world and infects people's brains, causing them to develop milk curdles.
The fuck?
Of course, activists come out of the woodworks in droves, screaming for the rights of both anomalies and humans.
There would be some kind of either PETA would expand into an organization that would include the anomalous, or there would be other organizations like PETA specifically for anomalous creatures that would pop up wanting to free them. They're being, you know, their rights as living creatures are, you know, being messed with. They're being abused, yada, yada.
Such as D-Class. Some of this
D-Class ones, yeah, I could definitely see that too. I could definitely see people coming forward and saying that, you know, you shouldn't use humans in these ways to experiment with SCPs. And some of that could potentially be justified. I guess it would all really depend on what the D-Class did. You know, I mean, most of them are pretty bad criminals that have murdered or done worse things. So, you know, maybe they could even have certain legal laws added into it where it's like, hey, you know, you've done this. This is a terrible thing. You know, you murdered someone. If you consent to being a D-Class experimentee for the SCP Foundation, your sentence can be commuted, you know, and lessened, you know, that kind of a thing. Maybe, you know, that would be kind of like a middle ground thing, something like that could be written into like legal stuff, but like, yeah, anyway.
Based on facts. Much of it was based on emotions directed against the Foundation. While the Foundation could make various government officials and international judges see the purpose of their containment efforts and testing, it was a much harder task to convince the public. The Foundation was generally seen as a mysterious, secretive organization operating with immunity from the laws of the world.
I mean, yeah, they for sure you could see conspiracy theorists coming out saying like, yeah, these are the guys that are actually really in charge. That this is the new world order stuff. These are the guys that have been in charge of governments in the background. They have all these SCPs and control all these SCPs, and they're the ones that are really controlling things in the background. You could easily see that coming out.
And while information about the numerous examples of the Foundation protecting the world from ending was leaked, much of the public would still only focus on how cavalier the Foundation is with human lives. Some reports begin to spread of the Foundation containing anti-Foundation activists and reporting them as anomalous, although it's hard to say if that's factual or not.
I feel like obviously it's not really something the SCP Foundation, I wouldn't think, would do. But I mean, again, ignorance is bliss. Like, I feel like a lot of these people, you know, if they were to really see what some of these SCPs were capable of, would change their minds really quickly about how important the SCP Foundation really would be and the kind of role they play in affecting humanity.
Reports are muddled by the existence of SCP-4427, an anomaly that cropped up in the wake of the Broken Masquerade and randomly causes certain individuals to manifest paranormal traits.
Interesting.
Generally uncontrollable reality bending. I'm going to leave things off here, as at this point I think you should be pretty clear on what the Broken Masquerade entails. Obviously, this was just a summary of bits and pieces from a number of different articles, but overall the Broken Masquerade canon has a lot of room to grow.
True.
It's certainly a very interesting timeline, since the Foundation no longer has to worry about one aspect of their goals, but the loss of anonymity invites new problems as well.
Yep. Certain things
Some
come
might
easier,
scoff
other
at
things
the
come more
idea that
difficult.
the Foundation couldn't contain an incident such as the disappearance of North Korea, considering the power at their disposal, but it leads to an interesting story regardless. Much of the SCP universe is predicated on the idea that there are many things in existence man was not meant to know. But in time, you can probably get used to anything.
True. We're gonna get a quote. We're getting a quote. We're getting a quote. Are you saying, Dr. Clef, that these people deserve to die? Not at all, Oprah. Okay. Not at all, Oprah. I'm saying that at the time we had no other choice if we wanted to understand how this device worked. Through that understanding, we were able to hide the object from the public and preserve more people's lives than were lost. The good of the many, Dr. Clef. The good of the many, Oprah. Now that the veil of secrecy has been lifted, we do things differently, but we still have to do things, have to study. But why, Doctor? Korea. One on Oprah. Oh my God. All right, I think that's going to do that for this one. So, I mean, honestly, I would like to hear about more stories in the Broken Masquerade timeline. I think it would be fascinating to see situations unfold when the SCP is public. And like I said, you know, there are certain other situations, like they could easily do like an X-Men kind of situation in the SCP universe where they set up a school for, you know, people who have anomalous abilities, train them to use their anomalous abilities properly and safely so they don't hurt themselves and others. And if some wanted to, they could have a pathway to where they could work and integrate themselves into the SCP, into some mobile task forces that could go out there and help humanity. And you could literally have X-Men stories going on in the SCP universe. Like, that would be dope. I would be down for that. I would absolutely be down for that. That would be sick. So yeah, I would be interested in hearing more tales from the timeline of this stuff. I would also be interested in hearing, you know, what activities some of the other factions are going to be doing. Activities like the Serpent Hand. Would the Serpent's Hand work more closely with the SCP Foundation? The anomalies are out in the open. Would there be kind of more of an essential alliance between them, or at least more understanding and cooperation, you know, and working with them to contain more powerful anomalies, because it was, you know, stated that there's even kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's escaping my mind, but essentially lesser hazardous SCPs might have the opportunities to essentially just integrate in normal human life, which is essentially kind of what the Serpent's Hand wanted anyway, right? So it would seem to make sense that they would kind of probably start to work a little bit more closely hand in hand. But also just saying, like, you know, what the Church of the Broken God and their various sub-factions would do, and you know, the Sarkics, etc. Stories from Marshall Carter and Dark being more public corporation, you know, I could see them starting kind of like an Amazon company kind of a thing, you know. I don't know, Anderson Robotics. It would just be interesting to see where a lot of these factions and a lot of these things, how they would differ in this timeline, and just seeing how stories would differ and take place in this timeline. Because probably one of the more interesting videos and things that I would like to hear more about is the whole 3 Portlands you know, situation. And this feels like this timeline is literally just 3 Portlands, but the whole world, like the whole world has obviously been awakened to the SCPs, and now SCPs are starting to be integrated into normal everyday life for people. And so what does that world look like, and how does that function, and what you know, how does the SCP Foundation and the other organizations work and function in that world? I would like to hear more and learn more about that. So but yeah, that was the exploring series, The Broken Masquerade. Links will be down below in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the exploring series. Please do me the favor, click those links. If you enjoyed this video, give his video a like. If you enjoy the exploring series content and you're not already subscribed to his channel, please go over there and subscribe to him. He makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe, as well as many others. Please check out his content. Excuse me. Oftentimes I do these reactions live for my YouTube members. If you'd like to come and join the discussions that we have while I do these reactions live, we'd love to have you guys come in and hang out, join in the discussions, give your 2 cents, theories, speculations, etc. There's a link down below in the description, as well as a join button underneath the video. Click those, see if any of the YouTube membership tiers have any interest for you. You can get, you know, early access to videos. You can get priority in any kind of video requests you want me to do, etc. So just take a look at those, see if they have any interest for you. If you decide you want to take your support to the next level, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day to come and hang out and watch the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and it helps the channel grow. And yeah, thanks. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. We'll see you guys on the next one.